Good evening. This is Jim, AF3Z, Alpha Fox 3 Zulu. Excuse me. And it is time for the Thursday evening roundtable here on the W3GMS repeater. Encourage you to check out the website. You have to do it at a new location now. The website is now at W3GMSrepeater.com. We have our own URL, our own, now I can't think of the word for it. Anyway, our domain name, our own domain name. So the website is now at W3GMSrepeater.com. And I'm sure you'll see some new stuff happen in there too. The repeater frequency is 146.985 megahertz, 146.985, with a PL tone of 100 hertz. So again, my name is Jim, call sign Alpha Foxtrot 3 Zulu, and I'll be the host for tonight's roundtable. And I'm located just outside of Mount Joy. We meet here every Thursday evening at 8:30, and in a few moments I'll be taking check-ins, and we'll pass the mic around then following the order in which stations check in. I encourage you, as people are calling in, to make a list of the stations so that you'll know where you come in the lineup, when it'll be your turn to speak, and also you will know the call sign of the station who will follow you, and you can simply turn it over to them when you're done with your comments. Doesn't need to come back to me. The discussions are informal. It's an informal group here as a roundtable, and have a possible question for you to talk about this evening. These questions are always optional. And question for tonight actually came out of a photography workshop I was at about 2 weeks ago or something. The first, the first speaker talked on the idea of life lessons he learned either through photography, or maybe photography underscored them or highlighted them. But think about that for ham radio. What are some basic, simple lessons perhaps, but life lessons that you learned or were reinforced through amateur radio? So that hopefully that makes some sense. But something that there's a basic thing about life that you find very important, and either you learned it through ham radio, or ham radio helped you really understand it or see it clearly, or something like that. So we're going to begin here by taking check-ins for those who will only be around for a short time, can't stay long, perhaps they're mobile, or perhaps you have other things you've got to get to. So those stations who would like to check in for a short time only, I'll give you a chance to make comments right at the beginning before we take all the other check-ins in. So short timers, please call now. This is AF3Z.
W3OMW with traffic for the net. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Rob. Anybody else? Any other short time check-ins? I have W3OMW. Anyone else? All right, Rob. Well, if you've got traffic, maybe you should pull off the road. Anyway, not much traffic around here at the moment. Only when the school's letting in or starting up over here. Rob, I'll turn it over to you for comments. Now, I'm assuming you're short time as well. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But go ahead and mention your traffic there.
Well, that was a good one, Jim. Pull off the road. I like that. Yeah, at this stage of life, I'm always a short timer. Good evening, all. As some of you know, I volunteer my efforts for a short line railroad up in Boyertown, and they just got a bunch of new radios that will be installed shortly. So your challenge, if you should choose to accept it, I'm looking for help installing these radios in some what we call high rail vehicles. Those are vehicles that can go either on the road or drop down special wheels and run on the tracks, as well as a locomotive or two. and also the station, and possibly install a repeater. It could be fun. For many of you who's never been in the actual operation of a railroad, this could be a lot of fun. So if you're interested, let me know at W3OMW at ARRL.net. And that'll go to my regular email, and I'll get back to you. The date is to be announced. Most of the radios have been delivered. Some are still on the way. And the station is a cute Victorian type station with a copper roof. So things to think about. And I'm also working on a fun thing to do after we're finished. Possibly a ride in the open car behind a diesel locomotive and set up a rolling ham station. So my call sign, W3OMW at ARRL.net, and I'll keep you posted as to when this will actually happen. Back to net, W3OMW.
Okay, Rob, very good. Thank you. And I've written that down and try to mention it later on when we may have some more people come on board here. Any other personal comments you want to make at this point tonight?
No, that should do it.
All right, very good. Thank you, Rob. Any other stations wishing to check into the 985 Roundtable on a short-term basis, for a short time tonight, please call now. This is AF3Z. All right, then. We will carry on, but not too much. Very good. So we'll just go now. Any additional stations wishing to check into the Roundtable, please call now. This is AF3Z.
This is KC3HXW.
KB3ZUV.
W3GMS, W3 Golf Mike Sierra.
NA3CW. Whiskey Alpha 3, King Fox Tango.
W3 Tango Tango Whiskey.
All right, let me break in, see if I've got it. Sounds like it. Very good. I got Corbin, KC3HXW, Adam, KB3ZUV, Joe, W3GMS, Chuck, NA3CW, John, WA3KFT, and Woody, W3TTW. Anybody else out there wanting to check into the Roundtable at this point? Call now. This is AF3Z. K3K. All right, you're a little bit scratchy and talked a little bit before your mic button was down. Was that mic by any chance? AB3AP? I'm not sure. Try it again. Station who tried to call in there, you want to try it again? This is AF3Z. Must be climbing the stairs to the top of the clock tower or something. All right, we'll keep going. Anybody else want to check into the Roundtable, AF3Z?
Kilo 3.
Okay, that time I heard a Kilo 3 and then your signal kind of dropped out there. I'm not sure what's going on, but all I got was Kilo 3. Try it again.
Radio problem or something.
Okay, something's going on there. I don't think you're dropping out of the repeater, but your audio is dropping in and out. We're not able to copy at this point, so you're welcome to keep trying. If you want to give it one more try now, and if it doesn't work, we'll keep moving. But if you get that solved, we'll be glad to welcome you back in here. So give it one more shot, AF3Z. Okay, anybody else wishing to check into the roundtable, call AF3Z. Alright, we'll take a pause from the checking in and just a couple quick reminders that all of you probably know more than by heart. You probably dream about them at night. One, remember to give your call sign when it's your turn to speak. Also, the repeater has a 3-minute timer, and it'll cut you off if you keep talking without letting up. And all you have to do is let up on the mic button for a moment. You don't have to let the repeater drop completely. Just let up and we'll let down again, and then start talking. Just a momentary pause will do it. Also, please leave some space between transmissions. And also, I'm guilty of this, I think, but key the mic and wait a second before you start talking, because we do, even some people here who have been around longer than the repeater occasionally do that. We start talking too soon and miss your first syllable or so. So leave some space between transmissions. And if someone checks in late, you're welcome to acknowledge them if they come after you, and let them know they'll be at the bottom of the list. And if you have the list there, you can let them know who they'll follow, or I'll be glad to help out with that too. So let me just one more quick call. Anybody else wishing to check into the 985 roundtable, please call now.
KC3 EWK.
Alright, KC3EWK. Good evening, Zach. Welcome aboard. Good to hear you. Anyone else? Alright, we'll get moving then. Reminder then, the question for tonight, hopefully it's not too crazy, but as I said, it came from a speaker at a photography workshop talking about life lessons that he learned or that were underscored by photography. What about ham radio? What are some basic, it can be not so basic, but some lessons you've learned in life that ham radio is either a source of that lesson for you or something that sort of underscored it and helped say, yep, that's very true. But something like that, some basic thing about life, some basic truth that ham radio helps you say, yep, that's true. And you can do with that as you wish. And just a quick review of the list. Corbin is first, KC3HXW, and then KB3ZUV, Adam, Joe, W3GMS, Chuck, NA3CW, John, WA3KFT, Woody, W3TTW, and Zach, KC3EWK. So we will get started up here at the top, and that's what we'll do. Don't mind me, my mind sort of wandered off there. Corbin, welcome aboard. Good to hear you tonight. KC3HXW. This is AF3Z.
AF3Z, this is KC3HXW. Hello all, it's nice to be on here again, say hi to all you guys. Want to let you all know, passed my general test finally, a couple of weeks ago. It's finally nice to actually be able to use my HF rig. And Joe, I'm actually on 40 meters right now doing whisper. And the farthest contact I've got that I could hear is 3,400 miles away, but I've been picked up as far as Australia and Antarctica today. So it is working pretty well. And that 40 meter, 20 meter trap dipole antenna I have is working well. And yeah, so as for your question, Jim, ham radio life lessons, I guess the one thing I could say is I've learned with ham radio is that no matter how much you try, there's still, you could always hear someone out there. You could always still get to someone as far away as you get. there's always someone able to be reached, even without internet or phone or mail for that matter. Alright, I'm going to keep this one short, so I'll send it over to Adam, KB3ZUV. This is KC3HXW.
Alright, good evening everyone. Good evening Corbin, everyone else on the roundtable. This is KB3ZUV in Thorndale. Not too much to report on this week since last week. Not too much has gone on. Joe will probably notice that I am at last speaking in my normal voice once again. The last little bits of my latest winter cold disappeared over the last week, so that's good. Lexi is enjoying her new daycare. Everybody there loves her. She's still not talking yet. We're kind of waiting for her to actually start speaking the English language. She's getting there. But as far as other things going on, not too much else going on. I think the big thing that we're still planning for and pulling out all the stops for is the big trip out west to Wisconsin to visit Great Grandpa next month. He lives in Appleton, which is just outside of Green Bay, and we'll be taking Amtrak in a sleeper car for most of that trip, just because I really do hate the TSA that much. I may have gone on a rant about that last week. I will refrain from doing that again this time around. As far as tonight's question, we'll reset real quick. One of the benefits of checking in early to the net is I get to use all the good catchphrases before the rest of you OMs get around to them. So I'll say that the catchphrase that resonates with me the most is ham radio. You get out of it what you put into it. I had my first ham radio career as KB3EDK from 1999 to 2003, and I really didn't put a lot of effort into it, and I drifted out of the hobby and became inactive. And the second time around in the hobby, I set myself up with a good support network, including the people on this repeater, but also other people in other clubs, both in Lancaster County, also over in Montgomery County, with some of the Philmont guys over there who I'll probably be doing field day with this year. Just good people all over the place, and I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was 15 years ago where I wasn't able to get the right feelers out and make the right social contacts. Something's changed 15 years in the intervening 15 years. I don't know if it's QRZ or just me, running into the right people at the right time. But I fell in with the right groups of people this time, and so when you say you get out of it what you put into it, I've been able to devote a lot more effort into the hobby, and now it's become definitely a lifelong pursuit for me, whereas that was not the case 15 years ago. So there you go. You get out of it what you put into it. And speaking of someone who's put a lot into the hobby, we're going to send it over to the man himself, W3GMS, in the roundtable from KB3ZUV.
Okay, I had to get the cat off my lap because I couldn't talk on the radio. She was in a very precarious position, and I couldn't swing over to reach the microphone. So I guess it's my turn. Yeah, KB3ZUV and the 985 Roundtable, W3GMS, Ursuline, PA. And Jim, first of all, thank you very much for hosting the roundtable tonight. And good to hear all the check-ins. Especially good to hear Zach. We don't get to chat too much anymore with your busy school schedule. But KC3EWK, Martha and I were out in the car running somewhere, and we said, I wonder how Zach's doing. We haven't heard from him. I said, well, I don't think he's real ham radio active these days, busy with his school stuff and other things. But I'm sure we're going to hear from him soon. So there you go. And lo and behold, you broke in. And yeah, it was good seeing you over here, Corbin, today on your way home from work. We ran some, we were going to run an SWR check on Corbin's mobile antenna, and that didn't work. So I'll let him tell you about that if he wants to. And we did measure the power output of his new used 2-meter rig with a Bird 43. So we got those numbers. So it was good seeing Corbin. Very busy day. started off with grocery shopping. It's kind of a mundane thing. And then I got together with lunch with a good friend of mine, George, W3GMS. You guys have heard me talk about my mentor, who was the same mentor that Chuck had, and some others, Harry, W3FDY. And we called ourselves the Friday Nighters back in our formative years as teenagers. So I had lunch with W3LVR, who I haven't seen in many, many, many years. We stopped at our usual place at Harry's, and I had my typical Reuben sandwich, which was very good, and he had or something. So that's how that goes. And I have a loose push to talk on my D connector on this rig, so if I drop down now and then, that's what it's from. I guess I'll have to jiggle the connector. I bought a new connector, but I forget where I put it. So it's old. It's bad. And then we took George up to the repeater site. He hadn't been up there for years and years, the old FDY site, and he enjoyed that quite a bit. We got him a picture standing next to the 985 GMS machine. I passed that along to Phil for putting on the website, and that's good. And where is Phil tonight? Maybe he nodded off. I think one time he did fall asleep. But if he nodded off, that means he's tired. So important for him to get rest, or maybe he just had a conflict. And a lot of you, some of you may know, some of you may not, but we outgrew the WordPress space that we had as the freebie. So we had an anonymous, what's the right term, benefactor or contributor. Somebody came forward and they decided to pick up the website charges for going to the next larger website with more capability. And so that financially we're okay for a year. And the new website has a new the 985 website has a new URL. So it's now W3GMS repeater.com. W3 Golf Mike Sierra repeater.com. And that's all you have to do. So you don't have to remember that long WordPress URL anymore. And thanks to Phil, he did all that in kind of record time. Chuck is now signed on as a helper with Phil with the website. So thank you, Chuck, for handling that. You know, you'll do a great job and take some of the burden off of Phil there. So Chuck has administrative rights for that. And let me see, what else? There was one other little piece of business that I wanted to pass along. I didn't write anything down, so I can't remember what the last item was. Oh, the audio link to the repeater. Dylan continues to do a good job with that. It's very reliable now. And as always, you can go to the website, click on Listen to 985, and then click on the next link that comes up, and you will hear 985. So if you're out of the area, whatever, and you want to listen to it, bingo, there you go. So that's that. And Dylan is about ready to get his amateur radio license. He's Scott's younger brother, and just doing a great job helping us out here. So we always appreciate that. Let's see, your question. Yeah, I had to think about that question because I kind of turned it around in all different ways, and I'm not sure what end I was supposed to address that question, Jim. You know, your mind wanders. Sometimes mine does too. And I thought of 100 questions when you gave the question to the evening. I said, this is not good if I have 100 questions about his question. But hearing other people's answer, I guess it's one of those things is ham radio life's lessons. And all I can tell you that amateur radio was a tremendous benefit to my electrical engineering career. It was a tremendous benefit when I went into the Army. I enlisted because I didn't want to be drafted, and it made my life much, much easier during those days, and it's just benefited many, many, many times. And there's so many parallels with amateur radio and life. I have a motto that I used as a tagline when I had a little business that I was running, is simplicity is the elegance of design. And every time I say that statement, I think of Jim, AF3Z, with his kind of quasi-minimalist enjoyment or approach to amateur radio. and it just goes to show you, you know, you can keep things very, very simple. You can use antennas with certain type of feeders, and you can still work lots of stations and have a lot of fun. So, and I think generally people tend to make their lives very complicated, and it's just a good baseline reset because you can keep it very simple in life and enjoy your life that way, and you can keep amateur radio real simple and enjoy the hobby. So anyway, that's my tiny tutorial on that. Now, down to the new administrator, the additional administrator, NA3CW, W3GMS. How you doing, Chuck?
Doing fine. W3GMS and the Roundtable NA3CW. I got pretty well confirmation that I will be getting that contract job with LifeScan, so it's just a matter of them grinding through the process and purchasing and approvals and all that stuff. So that could take weeks, but at least I know that there is an endpoint to it. So in faith, I will be getting on a train tomorrow morning at dark 100 and being first in line at the SEPTA ticket window to get a parking permit for the month of May at the Paoli train station, and I will have my monthly ticket for the month of May. So hopefully they'll get it all wrapped up sometime in May, or at least by then, and I'll be gainfully employed, and after that, probably fairly scarce at the breakfasts, but I am planning to be there tomorrow. I'm going to get a very early train, and I should be back here by 7:14. So that gives me plenty of time to slap myself awake and drive to the breakfast. So that's item one. Life lessons. I wrote down several. As Joe pointed out, ham radio made electronics real to me. I went to school with a lot of people that never did anything with it, and it was very theoretical, and they learned everything they knew about electronics on their subsequent jobs. But for me, it became very real. Things became very hot, very charged, RF burns, listening to things sizzle, learn what things smell like when you light the smoke out, different transformers, resistors, capacitors, and they all have a characteristic stink when you let the smoke out. So it became very real and tangible. A lot of people consider RF of any kind to be black magic and pointy hats with a magic wand, and it's not. It's very real stuff. Mind you, nobody that I know of knows what a photon really is, what it's made of, or what magnetism really is. But we can use it, we can calculate with it, we can make things with it, and we can talk to each other around the world with it. So that makes it very cool and very real. Another thing I learned to express it at my workplace from a supervisor, but the concept for me started in ham radio, and that is start small but start. If you wait for the optimal station, the optimal gear, the optimal antenna, the optimal QTH, you're not going to get anywhere and you'll miss a lot of fun. Start with what you got and get on the air and make contacts and have fun, and I guarantee you'll have more fun and more learning than if you didn't. And then as you gain learning, you advance, and you'll be much better informed to move ahead. So start small, but start. Number 4, that is, your station is more about you than your equipment and your location. I have seen very successful contesters using 100 watts and a dipole, stomping guys with towers and beams and power because their technique was superior. And the guy with a modest station in a townhouse can kick butt. And a case in point is Antoine K3DY. He's a QRP powerhouse with his low rig and his rain gutters and his backyard with his townhouse, and yet he is a force to be reckoned with in a QRP contest. So it's more about you than about your equipment. And finally, I learned through ham radio at a very early age that you can find something in common to start a conversation with nearly anybody. Now, in ham radio, we have the thing that all of us are supposed to have, and that is a license. So we all have something in common. And from there, it can go in any direction whatsoever. But one thing I did learn in ham radio is you can crank up a conversation with almost anybody. And that has worked very well in business and personal life and other places. Just to be able to find the common thread between you and boldly go forth and make chat. So that's my list of life lessons. So I guess on the next go around I'll talk about my antenna experiments that I've been running using Joe's very sophisticated Wellbrook loop antenna versus my plumbing, and very interesting results. And by the way, the Wellbrook did very well. Over to you, John, W3KFT. This is NA3CW.
Alpha 3 Lima Hotel.
Okay, Chuck. Very good. Well,
Got you, Leon.
electronics has been in my life for a very long time. And it all started with my cousin, Don Davis, W1DWA. He is my mother's cousin. My mother, my grandmother, my mother and his mother, my grandmother and his mother were sisters. So Donnie was the same generation as my mother. Lived near my grandmother in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and was a ham operator, I know, in high school, but I don't know when he first started. He is now a silent key. But I would go over and visit him, have lunch with him, and one of those visits he was working on a little table radio, and he needed to get a soldering iron plugged in. And I had my first life lesson. It could have been death, but I'm still here. And he had a trouble light, but not an extension cord. So he took the light bulb out and was looking for the adapter to convert it to a receptacle. And he said, whatever you do, don't put your finger in there. Well, you know, as a young kid, those are instructions. So I proceeded to do exactly that. The cord was plugged in. And hey, that tingled on my finger. That was neat. And I was about to do it a second time, and he caught me. Well, that's how I got started in electricity and electronics. Got into shortwave listening, and we discovered ham operators. And we had a local ham, K8ATV. Now, perfect set of call letters, but he wasn't in amateur television. He was a 6-meter operator. And we had a channel 2 60 miles away. And if he was on the air, he came over the TV. I found out that he lived up the street a couple of blocks. So that was my first face-to-face with a ham. I have no idea what his occupation was, but he liked to homebrew everything. Receivers, transmitters, power amplifiers, modulators, and he had a 100-watt AM plate modulated 6-meter transmitter and a 5-element beam. And he talked to a buddy such that his beam was literally pointed at our TV antenna. So I got to know Orson very well. In later years, actually dated his daughter a few times, but married someone else. And that electronics led me into reading more about it, troubleshooting, and repairing radios and TVs and record players for the public school system, which I became very good friends with the vice principal or assistant principal of the high school, because he was the one that used to do that, and he found out I could do it, so he let me do it. All the parts costs were covered, labor was covered, so I earned money doing that. And continued through college. But the end of my college, when I graduated, because of my experience in electronics, but still not a ham license yet, and a degree in physics, so yeah, I played with a lot of photons. I was hired by General Electric as an electrical engineer. And once in GE, I met more hams. And from that point, I met a ham that said, "Sounds like you like to teach." I had taught amateur radio code and theory classes for 12 years. I said, "Yeah, why?" He said, "You ought to teach at our school." I said, "What school is that?" "Oh, Pennsylvania Institute of Technology." I said, "Give me an application." He did. I filled it out. They hired me. And while I was at PIT, one of my employees, because I became a department or division head, was teaching at Penn State, and she came back and said, "John, they're looking for math teachers." So I went out to Penn State, put an application in, and a few months later, I was on a Penn State payroll. While at Penn State, I got a phone call from another ham operator. He said, "Delaware County is looking for somebody to teach AC circuits." I said, "Oh, I've been doing that." He said, "Go see so-and-so." I wound up being hired at Delaware County Community College in the electronics department. So my major lesson from ham radio was, not only do I get a chance to talk to a lot of different people, but it got me every job that I ever had since graduating from college. W3TTW, it's your turn. WA3KFT.
Okay. Say good evening to everyone. This is W3TTW. Hey, John, let me ask you questions before you get away. You're going to breakfast tomorrow.
I certainly am. Do you want me to stop by and pick up a rider?
Yes, please. I'll be looking for you. Thank you. Well, this is W3TTW. Well, talking about getting into radio, I had intentions of going down, but I didn't want to go alone. And there was two other guys I met out in front of the church before service started. We used to stay out there and talk a little bit before we went in. And one was just a plain guy, and the other guy was an ex-shipboard operator. So I mentioned about ham radio and going down. And, of course, we walked in pretty late with services had already started, because when ham radio topic came up, you forget all about the time. And that was an experience of going down to get a license. And the three of us made it. And we had calls adjacent to each other, and that was pretty nice. Well, okay, enough of that. And I think I'm the tail gunner, Jim. If not, you fill it in. AF3Z W3GMS.
Okay, thank you, Woody. And actually, there's two people behind you tonight. First is Zach, KC3EWK, and then Leon, AA3LH. So, Zach, over to you, AF3Z.
Hey, good evening all, and thanks for giving me a spot here. I had the radio turned halfway down. I was working on a kind of piece of junk computer and just messing around, and I almost missed an ad actually. I started to mentally tune out the radio for a bit there, so but I did make an effort to make it on, and I made it on. So I was under the impression there was somebody else that was going to run the net. I met him a couple days ago, but I can't for life of me remember his name, so that's not going to help much. But anyways, alright, the new website URL, I actually found that out today, yesterday, today, I think it was today, because I just wanted to see what was new on the website, and I put in the old URL, and it routed me to the new website, so it's pretty cool. Pretty neat website. I didn't see how it scales to mobile devices or anything like that, but looks fairly modern in my opinion anyway. And I guess the question of the evening is, what has ham radio done in my life? It's kind of helped me with a bunch of little things. I guess the greatest of that being communication and people skills, because obviously if you're going to be a ham radio operator, you have to be good at both of those. Because if you're boring, or if you are annoying or obnoxious, hang on a second here. Alright, it's got a weird timeout timer on this week. Then nobody's gonna listen to you, so just get better with that. At least I do. What I'm saying is it sort of helped me, and I'm still not perfect with my communication skills, and I tend to put in a lot of pauses and empty words, like that, But anyways, I'm getting better at talking to other people and meeting people, and making it a little bit less awkward than if you just ran into somebody and said hi to them or something. So I think it's a good skill to be able to talk to random people about random things and not make it awkward. But anyways, that's what ham radio has helped me with, or as far as social skills. And obviously my grammar, not so much, because it's edited my sentence with a preposition. But anyways, and also it's helped me a lot with my interest in electronics. I've sort of had an interest in electronics for a while, but I never really knew what I wanted to do with it. It's more or less a passive hobby, and it still is a passive hobby, but now I have more of a drive, I guess, meeting people who really have taken what I had as a passive hobby and made it their life, and seeing what I want to do with that and what direction I'd like to go as I get into college and everything. So, all right, that's that for me. I do not know who's next, so I'm going to pass it back over to Tim, AF3Z, KC3EWK.
Zach, over to you, Leon, AF3Z here.
AA3LH. One of the things that I've learned, a life lesson from ham radio, is this. I drove big trucks over the road. I run for local pickup and delivery to over the road. And when turning the truck, you're turning to CB radios. You listen to that garbage. The belligerent language goes coming from a CB radio. I did it for over 20 years. Listen to that, and I got away from it. I come to ham radio, and when I quit driving truck, and I found there's nice people on ham radio. Kind, courteous, caring people on ham radio that want to help you. And here the other, last year we went to Colorado. We drive to Colorado. We take things out for our son and his family who lives out there. And, hang on. Make sure the repeater resets. And I put a CB in. I listened to it for about an hour, so I can't stand that. How did I listen to that for 20 years? Or more than 20 years, when I can listen to something so nice. I didn't know that. I just can't believe that. But being a life lesson out of ham radio is to be nice to everybody, no matter how they are to you, because there were kind people who helped me along the way. When I first went to become a technician, I called up Ken Wiggins, N2DYK from Red Rose. He had a phone number on the webpage. I called him up, and he said, "You want to become a ham radio operator?" He said, "I will help you." And he did. He helped me get a technician license. Hang on. And then he helped me get a general license. So he encouraged me. He said, "You can do this." He said, "If you study, you can pass these tests." And I went on to become an extra then on my own. But kind, courteous people is what ham radio is, to me, is all about. I meet nice people on the radio. Yes, it's great. The other day I talked to Germany. That's great. That's great. Did that in 40 meters. That was great to meet people like that. But we're kind people. We all have one thing in common. We want to talk to people. All right, that's all I have to say. I guess I'm the last one on the list, so it goes back to you, Jim. AF3Z. This is Alpha 3 Lima Hotel. I believe that goes to you, Jim.
Right, you are, Leon. Very good. Thank you. Welcome aboard here tonight. Good to see you again. Hasn't been too long. And let me pause for a second here. Is there anyone else who would like to check into the round table? You can call now. This is AF3Z. All right. Hearing nothing, I will fill up some space here. Very good. Thanks for all your comments. And all good stuff, all kinds of interesting stuff. One I thought of is that just because something doesn't make sense now doesn't mean it's not good or it won't help you out. A non-ham radio thing, though it's related now, I didn't expect it to be years ago. But in high school, I was, I guess, headed to college maybe, and I took personal use typing in 12th grade or sometime, and it was in the business department, but you weren't trying to be a business person. You were just taking it so you could type papers and stuff, I guess. And that course has been one of the most helpful things I ever took with all the computer typing and everything these days. Cowabunga. But in the ham radio world, something semi-similar. In the good old days, when you had to had to do the code for your license. Now, it wasn't good for everybody, but an awful lot of people learned the code because they had to, and later on found out, boy, this can really be fun. And I was one of those. I learned it because I had to. I wanted to, but it was a grind and all of that. And so some of those things, you have to work your way through. The other thing associated with the code for me has been patience and stuff. At times we talking to somebody who's trying to learn the code, and they hear me or they know I'm pretty good at it, sort of, relatively anyway. And I'll point out, well, I've been doing it for 40 some years. So it's one of those things too that excuse me a minute. One of those things that you do it long enough and you gradually get better at it, and it becomes more second nature. When you're starting out and trying to copy and what was that letter and all that stuff. I still do that, but at faster speeds. So that's a life lesson for me. And I've said this before. It's kind of like I sit here playing my guitar and stuff, and since I retired, I've been doing more of that. And it's like, boy, practicing does help. So whether it's a code or guitar or typing, some patience, some practice, hanging in there, and something that might have been drudgery and hard at the beginning can become quite a lot of fun. So there you go. There's my life lesson of the day. Anyone else before we start round two want to check into the 985 Roundtable? Please call now. This is AF3Z. All right, very good. We will head off into round two. Corbin, back to you. KC3HXW. This is AF3Z.
AF3Z, this is KC3HXW. This will probably be my last go around for tonight. I gotta get up early for work, so I won't be able to stay on too much longer. But I will be listening. Anyhow, Joe, I guess I will spill the beans on my small mess up today. I went over to his house to check my antenna because he thought it may not be transmitting full power out. And we're looking at my coax and we notice it's a little pinched. I go to close the door on it and snapped the coax in half right in front of him. I shifted it wrong and it caught on the antenna mount. Just clean cut the coax. So we had to use a dummy load to do the test. And that was that. So Joe had a good laugh. I had a good laugh. I got to replace coax in my Jeep. And there's that. Woody, when I took my, if you're still listening, when I took my general test, I took it with the Pottstown Radio Club, Amateur Radio Club. And there was a guy there who was helping out the testing. He's been a ham radio for almost as long as you have. I think he was about 98 years old. He got his ham radio license when he was about 18, so it was pretty cool because he didn't know you, because I asked him if he ever talked to you, and he didn't know you at all, but it was just pretty funny that there was someone close to your age and your ham radio experience that was around in the same area. Just as far as I know, neither of you guys know each other, so kind of funny how that works out. But Adam, if you're still listening, I hope your train ride goes well. I know we were talking about that before, and I think you and your wife and your daughter are really going to enjoy the long-distance ride on Amtrak. I know I like Amtrak a lot when traveling. The seats tend to be a bit more comfortable, and the amenities are a lot nicer. Plus, you don't have to worry about turbulence too much. So I hope that trip goes well for you. And Chuck, good job on the new job. I hope it goes well. Best of luck with SEPTA in the mornings. I did that for quite a while going to Philadelphia. Other than that, I'll say 7-3 and I'll just listen out. This is KC3HXW going to KB3ZUV.
Thanks, Corbin. This is KB3ZUV in the Roundtable, and I guess I have to cover all the stuff I didn't do the first time around, and I guess I should say congratulations for upgrading to General. And it sounds like you've plunged in head first by doing 40 meters whisper. That's actually what I was doing last year, portable from Wyoming during the solar eclipse. And I actually participated in the contest, and I sent in my logs for that of who all was able to pick up my transmissions during the eclipse and who all I was able to hear. And actually, there was a slight improvement of propagation as the moon's shadow passed over in the middle of the day. 40 meters, it is more of an evening, sort of a twilight band, and the propagation was definitely better. But it's good that you have that 20 and 40 dual band antenna, because you can do 20 during the day and then 40 when it gets dark at night. And if you ever get bored with those two bands for whisper, you got to do 30 meters. 30 meters whisper is awesome. That's another 24/7 band. And really, 30 meters, whether you're a CW fan or a digital data like me and Corbin, I can't say enough good things about 30 meters. I only wish it was bigger. Although I guess maybe as small as 30 meters is, maybe that helps keep it a sort of I would say a not very well hidden secret for HF, and I try to spend as much time there as I can, 20, 30, and 40. So there you go. I guess a couple other things here. Interesting, you upgraded at Pottstown, Corbin. That's where I got my technician and general as well. They're doing a lot of test sessions, those guys. I actually talk to on their repeater every now and then, which I can't hit very well from my house, but I can hit pretty decently when I'm mobile. I actually have had numerous conversations with the guy whose call is two letters before my KB3ZUT. He is a mainstay on their repeater, and we have a good chuckle whenever I hop in there, which hasn't been for almost a year. I need to stop back and see how he's doing. But they have their own little interesting group of guys up there, and it's a pretty decent machine for where it's located. Pretty decent coverage. Although, like I said, I mainly hang out here these days. With that, I have to say, with some regrets, I will not be able to make the breakfast tomorrow as expected at the Brass Eagle. I know the waitress staff there will miss me so much with my pleas to bring out my plates of bacon and eggs as quickly as possible. But I know everybody else there. They do a good job. It was just the first time I was there. It was a little bit bumpy. But I hope you all have a great breakfast there tomorrow and your little mini ham fest and all that stuff. That's good. One of these months I'll have to make it back there. Right now me and my boss are not seeing. I don't think he'd spit on me if I was on fire right now. But maybe things will improve, or I can find ways to sneak off one of these days and make it back to Brass Eagle. So enjoy that tomorrow. I'll reset one last time. I'll say just as Corbin did, congrats to Chuck on the new position, even though it's not a permanent position and you were looking forever. I know that it was starting to wear on you, so I'm glad you have something at last that looks like it's going to pan out, even if it means you have to get back on SEPTA. Corbin, you mentioned the Amtrak is nice and plush. SEPTA's a little more Spartan by comparison. I'm very much an Amtrak fan, and going back to when I actually worked there, I was a contractor there. I had a cubicle at 30th Street Station and everything. That was an interesting time, riding around on SEPTA. I wish I had stayed active in ham radio. I could have made some interesting mobile contacts in those days. But that is a story for another day. I think I'm gonna sign here and listen out. It's great hearing everybody's voices again tonight, and I'll say 7-3 and send it over to Joe W3GMS from KB3ZUV Clear.
Okay, a little pause for the cause. KB3ZUV and the 985 Roundtable, W3GMS, Ursuldon, PA. Very good. And Adam, I'm so glad Lexi likes her new daycare center. I forgot to comment on that. And also, you guys are going to have a blast on your train trip. Absolutely a blast. I'm sure that's going to be lots of fun. So you got a couple nice things to look forward to there. And talking about people knowing people, I had a wonderful day. What day was it? Tuesday, I guess it was. With W3UQH and K3ALV. W3UQH is Dwayne, and K3ALV is Steve. And both Steve and Dwayne knew you, John, WA3KFT. So your name came up. I donated a piece of gear that Dwayne was looking for my museum. I wasn't tied to it, so he wanted it very badly, so we gifted it to him. So there you go. But we had a great day. We went up. We were going to go up to the repeater site, but we ran out of time. But the highlight of the day, since Woody knows Dwayne and Steve very, very well from the Reading QCWA chapter, I got this idea in my head when they came down. I said, geez, wouldn't it be great if these guys could come and visit Woody and we could take them out to lunch? So I called Woody's daughter, Eileen, and I says, hey, what's Woody doing for lunch today? Nothing really. Is he going to be there? Yep. I said, well, don't tell him we're coming. We want to leave it as a surprise. So Dwayne and Steve rode with me, and we just dropped into Woody's daughter's place, picked up Woody, took him to one of his favorite eateries, and just had a really nice time. So Woody, when they got back here, they had to turn around and head back up to Reading area to get home. But we had a fun day. Dwayne and Steve have not been down since Room 1 was completed at my museum. And they really enjoyed seeing that. It seemed like they really enjoyed the stuff and the stories and so forth and so on. So there's been a lot of socializing as of late. And today as well, my good friend W3GMS, George. And I noticed that I was listening to the stream tonight just a minute ago, and I noticed we have 6 listeners that are listening to the 146.985 audio stream. So that's pretty cool. And let's see, what else? I didn't make many notes. All your stories of how amateur radio affected your life things and all was very, very interesting. So won't go down each one, but it's really interesting to see how the hobby has impacted different phases of all of your lives. Still looking for Phil, our KC3CIB, the leader of the Roundtable. I mean, this was his concept, and he's not on tonight. I sent him a wake-up call via email, but his email machine probably isn't plugged into any kind of buzzer that goes off when he gets an email. If I turn my speakers on by the PC, when I get an email, I'll get this chime that comes on. So I can be anywhere in the house if the speakers are turned up, and I'll hear the chime. So I guess that's good and bad at times. And my allergies are still bothering me here, so we're sniffling away with a box of Kleenexes. So really bad allergy season. And Chuck, thrilled that you got the contractor's position. I know you would. I knew you would. So there was a little doubt in my mind. So, and we'll talk more about things when we see you tomorrow at the breakfast. Sounds like you're going to make it. So that's good. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the breakfast that can make it. And should be a good turnout. And I'm sure everybody's going to have a good time. Okay, let's see down the list. Woody, it looks like you're all set for a drive. John's going to pick you up and probably take you home. And Zach, it's great to hear you tonight. And it sounds like you're doing well. It was interesting to hear you express how amateur radio has influenced your life. So that was neat. Just a little comment. Next time you pick it up, just try to keep close to the microphone. Sometimes your voice was trailing off and the audio level was dropping very low. And I didn't have too much trouble copying it, but I think some others may have had a little bit of difficulty maybe. I kind of know your voice pretty well, and I can almost know what words you're going to say, so I kind of fill in the blanks. But that particular rig, when you get back off the mic, some of your syllables and words were very low, and others were normal. So there was a variation there. And let's see. I hope your parents are doing well, Zach. And I don't know whether you've played any music gigs as of late, but be interesting to hear about them. And also, I hope your school work is going well. So we'll talk maybe a little bit more outside the round table about more happenings. And Leon, I hope you make it tomorrow. You and your wife, like you did last month. It was great seeing you all. And it was interesting to hear your story about about your experience with Citizen Band Radio while you were a trucker. So yeah, that's got to be a tough job. That's got to be a very, very difficult job, especially the long haul stuff. When you're away from home for so long, you do what you got to do to bring the bacon home. But I think that would be way down on my list of things that I would do. But as I said, you do what you got to do. NA3CW, W3GMS.
NA3CW. And yeah, I forgot to mention, Corbin, congratulations on the General. Well done. And sounds like you dug right in, which is the way to go. Excellent, excellent. And keep up the good work, keep growing, keep learning, and get that extra eventually. And also very glad that trap dipole worked out for you. I thought it was a good setup for what you needed, and I'm glad it works. As mentioned earlier, I did some testing. Oh, by the way, I ride Amtrak, not SEPTA. SEPTA doesn't come out this far. It stops at Thorndale. It would be cheaper, but yes, Amtrak is definitely cushier than SEPTA. It's also a lot more expensive, but that's what we got available. So I ride I ride Amtrak to Paoli. I mentioned earlier about the antenna testing. Joe had been given a Wellbrook receiving loop. It's a 1 meter diameter aluminum loop with a built-in preamp, and goes into a bias T-box and a power supply, and you hook it up to the receiver input of the transceiver. And I had made a similar sort of thing several years ago, which has been in my backyard ever since. Mine is a square loop made out of copper pipe. And it was originally going to be a transmitting loop, so that's why I made it out of copper pipe. But receiving loops are not nearly as fussy about material resistance as transmitting loops. But in any event, I've had a good results out of my square loop. It's 33 inches square, sitting on a rotator, and it's about 5 or 6 feet off the ground. So I figured it's time for a comparison. So I brought Joe's Wellbrook over, put it on a piece of plastic conduit, and put it on my stand, which is a tree stump with a 2x4 screwed to it, and got the Wellbrook up in the air. It's about maybe 10 feet in the air. Right now it's in my garage because I didn't want to leave it in the rain, but it was about 10 feet in the air, and I brought coax and RG6 to the bias T. And I hooked both the antennas up to a coaxial switch so I could rapidly flick back and forth, because with QSB fades in HF, one could be down while the other's, one could be down while the other's up, or by the time you click, signal is up, and by the time you move the connector to the other antenna, it would be down. So I'm able to flick back and forth very rapidly to compare them. And sure enough, the Wellbrook is better. It puts out a good deal more signal, and it's really shines on the lower frequencies. It's optimized for even below the AM broadcast band. So I was listening to, I don't know what they were, but I was listening to some digital signals at a couple hundred kilohertz with the Wellbrook that my loop wasn't even getting a whiff of. And on 160, it's way stronger than mine. On 80, it's quite a bit stronger than mine. On 40, they're about the same. And on 20, sometimes mine was stronger because mine is more optimized for the higher frequencies with the ferrites that I have. But so I'm just beginning the study. But I was surprised to see that the Wellbrook had significantly more gain than mine. So now that got me all interested. So I looked. There is a website online called Well Good that a British ham reverse engineered the Wellbrook preamp because he blew his up with his transmitter. And I'm going to be probably dead bugging a copy of that to see how it does on my loop. So very interesting stuff. It's the first time I've had a loop in my backyard that did better than mine. So my interest is piqued. So I got to get up at O'Dark 100 tomorrow to ride the train, Amtrak, to Paoli train station to pick up my parking pass for May, which go very quickly, so because they don't have enough of them. So I'll make this my last, but I will listen out through the round. So over to you, John, W3KFT. This is NA3CW.
NA3CW, WA3KFT. Okay, Chuck. Very good. And I'm going to make this my last. And Woody, I will be over there somewhere between 8 o'clock and 8:15 tomorrow morning. W3TTW, WA3KFT. Go ahead, Woody.
Okay, John. Very good. W3KFT, W3TTW. Yeah, I'd like to get there with you guys tomorrow. And that's my only chance is when I can get someone passing by. So, I appreciate that very much, John. Well, nothing else here, Jeff. I'm about ready to pull a switch. So I think I'll say 7-3 to everyone. And look for you next week again. AF3Z W3TTW. Good night, all.
Thank you, Woody, and good night to you as well, and everybody else was checked out at this point. And Zach, it's over to you again, KC3EWK, AF3Z.
Alright, AF3Z and the net. I'm going to attempt to be a little closer to the microphone this time. How's this sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, I've sort of noticed that with this mic, it's like you have to be on it or else there's nothing. And it's a mobile microphone, so it's sort of designed for that close range only. Otherwise, you'd be picking up, car noises if you're driving around. So, anyways, quick note on what Joe said about my speaking or whatever. I guess I'm becoming too predictable. If you can actually predict what I'm going to say and fill in the gaps. So, anyways, boy, I don't really have a whole lot that's going on, to be honest, and not too much to put out. Well, I sort of do actually. It's kind of little importance. So I just had my antenna come down. There's some wind the other day that I need to put back up, and I'm off the air in HF anyways. I need to figure out what happened to the 12-volt AC line for my filament supply. So anyhow, I really don't have too much more to add here. And let me see, Joe, my parents are doing well. My grandmother, my dad's mom, just passed away, and I think he's taking it okay. She was having some problems for a while, so. But other than that, they're doing pretty good. Busy, very busy this time of the year for construction workers. Hang on a second. But other than that, yeah, I don't really have much, so I'm gonna make this my last transmission here, and I wish everybody a good night and a good weekend up and coming. Over there to, I think KC3CIB is still in here. I don't remember, but I think he's still around, so I'll pass it off. 73, we'll catch you later. KC3EWK, signing out.
Actually, Phil hasn't been here, Zach. We're not sure where he is, but anyway, AA3LH, over to you, Leon.
Okay. Alpha 3 Lima Hotel is planning on being at the breakfast along with Kilo Charlie 3 Hotel Quebec Zulu is going to be there. Also, that is the plan for tomorrow. Also, about ham radio, one thing I do really appreciate about it is on 75 meters at the 3.9800 is the Bible study that's there in the morning. Do appreciate that. I just can't get enough of that. I believe in Jesus Christ very much. I do appreciate that. Never had that on on the CB frequencies. Never had it. Never existed, as far as I know. And I've been a CBer for a lot of years. But on ham radio, we have Bible studies at different places on the band, different times. I just appreciate that. Also, I do enjoy going out to Colorado, setting up antennas and then we plan on sending W3GMS some emails, and we plan when we plan on being on the frequencies. They are 2 hours behind us, and what frequencies would we have clear out there may not be clear in here, as I have found out doing this in the past. We're going out there, we're taking an ICOM 718 out there. We're going to take a Cobra Ultralight, which works 10 through 80 meters, and I want to also take a G5RE Junior along out and try different antennas along with some ham sticks out there. We plan on doing that, just seeing how it is to try. It's always fun to talk back home to people that you know in here. It is so nice because the ham community in here is so nice. We talk about Eastern Colorado. There are no repeaters that I can find out there. They aren't there. But it's fun to talk back home to people we know. Okay, with that, next I cut myself off. With that, I plan on throwing, as we say, pull the big switch. And we'll see you guys at breakfast tomorrow, Lord willing. This is Alpha 3, Lima Hotel, 73s.
Hey, good night, Leon. Good to hear you tonight. Thanks for joining in here. And quickly or not so quickly, anybody out there wanting to join the roundtable? We're somewhat in reduced form, but starting to wind down, but you're definitely welcome to join in here. So anybody else wishing to join in, this is AF3Z. All right, maybe Phil's one of those guys listening to the feed on the computer. All right, very good. 73 to all of you who left, and just a reminder to those who are still listening, Rob, W3OMW, was offering an opportunity. It sounded kind of neat. He works with the Short Line Railroad out of Boyerstown, and they got some new radios that we need to install in some vehicles, some of those truck-type things that'll drive on the road or on the rails, also a couple of locomotives at the station itself, and maybe a repeater too. So the date isn't set yet, but then there might be some kind of an after-the-work thing on the railroad, riding behind a locomotive in an open car or something. So anyway, if you're interested, possibly volunteering with that railroad radio project, W3OMW, Oscar, Oscar Mike Whiskey, Whiskey 3 Oscar Mike Whiskey at ARRL.net, and you could check with Rob on more details or whatever, but there's a neat opportunity. Anybody else wishing to check in? Okay, very good. See what comments I have. Yeah, a lot of stuff here I didn't get to comment on, but Corbin, you were getting up early if you're still with us. Appreciated your comment, observation that with ham radio, you can always reach out and find somebody out there somewhere. There's always somebody to talk to, and that's true. Any time of day or night, you can get on the radio and usually find somebody around. And Adam, if you're listening by any chance, yeah, have a good train trip. That sounds like fun. And you definitely get what you put into things. That's true too. And Joe, always, as always, thank you very much. And interesting to hear, how much ham radio benefited you. You had no idea probably early on, but with the Army and your career and everything. And I take that as a compliment on my simplicity to some degree. But yeah, there is something good about simplicity, but we can talk more about that on another day. And Chuck's thing on start small but start, it's the old first step thing. Long journey begins with the first step, so step on out, I guess. And yeah, so true that more is involved in the equipment, no doubt about that. And let's see, John. If John, you're still listening, maybe we'll catch you tomorrow, but yeah, don't put your finger in the socket. Yes. Woody, good night to you. See you tomorrow. I'm planning on being there. And also W3CWE, Charlie Whiskey Echo, is supposed to be riding along with me tomorrow, so there'll be two of us coming. And boy, right now I forget Harry's call, but I had a neat connection on the radio here on 985. Carter Craigie, some of you will remember Kay Craigie, who was head of the ARRL for a while. I forget her call right now. N3KN? No, I think that's wrong. But anyway, her husband Carter, N3AO, he lived near my parents and went to the same church, so he knew my dad and stuff, and every once in a while we hook up, and we hooked up by email recently. And then I was on here a couple times, and Harry, and now his call is escaping me. Is it BMX or something? You know who I'm talking about, Joe. But he also apparently went to that same church, and he knows Carter and knew my dad and all that stuff. And so it's just a number of coincidences that brought us all together here, and that was fun. Quickly, Joe, do you remember Harry's call?
Sure do. In fact, I was talking to Harry today because he's very good friends with George, W3LVR, who I had lunch with today. But anyway, Harry's call is W3BMX, W3 Boston Mike X-Ray. Go ahead.
All right, I had the end of it right. I was doubting myself. Sounded too familiar because of BMX bikes. But yeah, very good. Thank you, Joe. So that was a neat connection. Yeah, I've made a lot of good connections by way of radio over the years. So I have left here 7073, Joe, you and I forget if Zach signed or not. I think maybe he did, but I didn't write it down. So we're about out of folks here. Everybody else is signed, I believe. So, Joe, any final comments? And then you can turn it over, see if Zach is still there. And if Phil or somebody doesn't show up, we'll call it a day. W3GMS, AF3Z.
K2GFY. Hi, Bill. Good to hear you. Why don't you pick it up, Bill, and then turn it back to me, since you just broke in and the group is rapidly dwindling. Usually pretty much wraps up around 10, so you just got in under the wire. K2GFY in the group, W3GMS.
Well, good evening, Joe. I hope my audio is acceptable. The repeater is going up and down tonight. Going from an 8 to a 5 to a 6 to an 8 to a 5 to a 4. And it's fluttering, so I may be fluttering right back at you. So I don't know, how much of you are getting this. Anyway, K2GFY, good evening to Jim at Control. Good evening to Joe. Good evening to anybody else that may be within the sound of my voice. And I did have a question for you guys. On May 6th, do any of you gentlemen plan on attending the Warminster Hamfest over in Bristol, Bucks County?
I'll see if I got it. Apparently I did. Yeah, hi there, Bill. Good to hear you. I hadn't been. I didn't even know about it, and I doubt it. So sorry about that. Joe, over to you.
Yeah, you call me taking out the trash. Tomorrow's trash day here, and I'm doing a bunch of things, but I didn't miss any comments. I'm here listening on the HT out in the garage. So stand by, and we'll switch to the big rig. Okay, now we're on the big rig. Now, I doubt it, George, or Bill. I'm thinking we have a pretty full Hamfest schedule with Nearfest coming up in New Hampshire, and that's going to pretty much fill that slot. So anyway, but it does sound like a good one. We are talking about going to Sussex, New Jersey, which happens, I think, in August, maybe. I've never been to Sussex. They say it's a huge, huge Hamfest, and I like to see it once. Martha and I did go to Orlando to Hamcation a couple months back, so we did make that one for the first time. And then we're going to the Antique Wireless Conference in August, and I forget what schedule in the fall, but probably a normal trip. Normally Nearfest in the fall, falls on Martha and my wedding anniversary, and I promised her I wouldn't drag her to a Hamfest this year for our wedding anniversary, so we're going to go somewhere else, not at all related to amateur radio. But anyway, so that's that. And there's probably a couple other ones. We always try to make Kutztown, the Antique Radio Meet in Kutztown's coming up in May. That's a really good one for broadcast radios and things, but there's a few ham radios up there, and the prices are very good generally. So the Kutztown Amateur Radio, or the Kutztown Antique Radio Meet is a very good one. They have that in the spring and fall, so we have that one dialed in. So anyway, that's kind of our Hamfest itinerary at this point. Well, I'm about wound down here. Jim, great job, and I'm awfully glad that Dave, W3CWE, is coming tomorrow. And the promise that I made Leon to tell him that if he comes to a 985 breakfast, the first one, his breakfast is on me. So you make sure I get his bill tomorrow, because I'm going to pay for his breakfast. It's the first one he made, and that's great. And maybe he'll come to more. I'm not going to treat him every time, but I'm going to treat him tomorrow. So that's great that Dave is coming. You know, I've talked to Dave. Dave was an early user on 985 back in 76 when I put the repeater on the air, and I'm not sure I've ever met him. I can't think that I have, so that'll be a real pleasure after talking to him on and off over many, many years, finally having a chance to meet him. I know, Bill, we're definitely going to make Mullica Hill, and I think that's, when's Mullica Hill? Let me see, in August maybe? August is Mullica Hill? But anyway, whenever Mullica Hill is, we will make that one. And probably stop at the diner and have breakfast on the way in. So there you go. And yeah, the simplicity part, Jim, that was meant as a compliment for sure. So yeah, it's good. You know, it's real easy to make things complex and throw more money at things and come up with solutions, but the frugalness is something that I've always admired in individuals. And my dad was very frugal, and it served him well. And I guess frugalness, even though I don't know whether you call my amateur radio stuff being frugal, but frugalness has been a key part of my life, and that's why I could retire at 56 years old. So that worked out very well. Okay, let's see. I think everybody else has signed. Zach did sign out of there, and I'm not sure Leon did. So let me just throw it up in the air because I'm not sure. And then you can take it from there, Jim. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Looking forward to it at the 985 breakfast. So, let's see. Was there anything else? Nope, I guess that's it. So good night all. Take care. Have a good Thursday evening, what's left of it. W3GMS, now clear.
KTGFY returning. Yeah, well, I believe the Gloucester Hamfest is the second weekend in September. September 11th, September 13th, September, whatever the second weekend is in second Sunday, I believe, in September. I'm not sure. Sussex is always, I remember Sussex when it first started, I believe it was in August. So I remember August was always hot. I don't think I've ever been to Sussex where it hasn't been hot. I believe that they moved it, and it's July, I want to say it's July 14th this year? July 14th or 15th or something like that. And they used to have a powwow up at Sussex County Fairgrounds the same exact weekend as the Hamfest. So we used to go up and do the powwow and dance at the powwow, and then there would be intermission, and we'd go over to the Hamfest, or vice versa. We'd go over to the Hamfest and walk around until the powwow started, and then go over to the powwow and do the thing and stuff. But I believe it's July 14th this year for Sussex. But the one that's coming up in May 6th, let me drop it here for a second. May 6th, it's the Warminster Hamfest. It was formerly held at the Grange over there near Warminster, and they moved it to a new location last year. It seemed to work out pretty well. It was at the Bucks County Community College, Lower Bucks campus, which is in Bristol, which is if you take the PA Turnpike, or I don't know how you guys would come from Chester County. It's right before the connector bridge that goes across the exit 6 on the Turnpike that goes across into New Jersey. And it's right off of Route 413 in Bristol, and it seemed to work out really, really good last year. Nobody really missed the Grange, although it was hot at the Grange for a long, long, long time. But that's going to be one because we attended, I think it was Cherryville. That was in late March or early April. That was the first one, and this will be the second one for us. The one up in Kutztown, I'm interested to know on that one. That sounds very, very interesting, even though it's more commercial probably than ham equipment. So if anybody's got the date, maybe they can pass that along. And sorry I won't be seeing you guys at Warminster, or should I say the Bristol one, May 6th, but I'm sure I'll see you guys somewhere. Hopefully we'll go to Sussex. If not, we'll definitely see Joe at Gloucester. Hopefully Jim can make it to Gloucester. One of these days, I may even surprise you guys and ride out for one of those breakfasts. We'll see. Anyway, I guess that's all I have. Jim, nice job as net control. Joe, talk to you later. Whoever else is on here, have a pleasant evening. KTGFY.
All right, Bill, very good. I don't know if I called you George before or not. I don't remember. But yeah, thank you very much, Bill. And yeah, it'd be good to meet up with you sometime. I always enjoy that. But I always have a problem, Bill. You meet somebody you've talked to for so long, and you get this mental picture of what they look like. And sometimes it's pretty funny to see how much different we are in reality than what we sound like, what we imagine somebody to look like. But it'd be good to meet up with you, and thanks for jumping in here tonight. And Joe, you said something I was going to respond to, but I'm not sure what to talk about tomorrow. Oh, Dave. Dave was telling some people, we had a meeting for the Red Rose group last night, and I took him to that, and he was talking to somebody else, and I've heard him describe it a couple times that he's going, and he got an offer and pointed out that you were going to pay for his breakfast if he went. So yeah, if you paid for it all the time, he might come.